Billy thinks he doesn't fit in with his family. Billy mentions psychosis and incest to his therapist. He even likes helping zip up his sister's dress, while the flesh of the back of her pokes outward. Coming this summer, Society, a movie about becoming one with the upper class.
And possibly incest.
Yes, and possibly incest. Everyone's
I like
favorite.
3 tickets, please.
Everyone's favorite actor, incest.
Oh, yeah. So we're here to talk about Society, which is a super not gross movie at all.
No, nothing awkward or weird about this movie.
Even before the final 20 minutes, nothing awkward.
Yes, the finale, the best part. So if anyone's not familiar with Society, I should also say welcome to the podcast, Outpost 138. Sorry, we are flying today.
We're having a blast today.
We are. So this is Society. It's a 1980s movie that I don't think anyone saw coming, and I don't think a lot of people remember, actually. When was the first time you watched it, Rob?
I was late to the game on this one. I didn't watch it till I was well into my late teens, so probably early 2000s, like well over 10 years after it had come out.
Wow, I was even later. I want to say I saw it 4 years ago.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And this was like one of those movies that I just feel like nobody talks about it. And the thing
They
is
don't.
it's just, yeah, it's not, because it's not a slasher. It's not really a monster movie, kind of.
It's so much a mystery and thriller.
Right.
For the most of the runtime, and even just that, it's a very bizarre mystery.
Right, because it really is a metaphor, as I was saying in my fake movie trailer opening. It is a metaphor for like not fitting in with the upper class. In fact, it's so much that in this whole movie, as far as I could discern, there is one person of color. And
Really?
that's the love interest.
Does she count?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Like, if her mom is, she's very pale, pasty type.
I don't know. We'll let the judges decide.
Either way, most of the people in this movie are Caucasian, and
they're rich white people.
Rich white people.
They're in Beverly Hills, so
it's right where it needs to be. This movie really is about a guy named Bill.
Yep.
His real name is Billy Warlock, though, right?
That is the actor's name, Billy Warlock. Yeah.
Billy
he is
Warlock.
the son of Dick Warlock. I'm not making that up.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder. Said to his wife, "Hey, wife, what's some of that Warlock dick?"
I hope he did, man. I really hope he did. Because I mean, you know who Dick Warlock is, right? In the horror community, right?
No, yeah.
Okay. Because he's Michael Myers in part 2.
Yeah, and then he was also he did some stuff on Friday the 13th Part 5 as well.
Yeah. Dick Warlock.
Dick Warlock.
And he was the stunt coordinator in a number of the Child's Play films. So he has a horror pedigree.
Mm-hmm. And if you see him once, you'll always remember him because he's just got one of those really specific faces, and he's got like really like straight up white hair.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very identifiable. But Yeah, this movie is about a kid named Bill, and he really doesn't fit in with his family, so much so that he does admit to a psychiatrist, or therapist, I should say, that he feels like he's experiencing psychosis, and that somewhere in his family, especially specifically with his sister and his parents, that there might be incest going on.
Yep, and he he says that his life is a nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
and that though he has no proof, he thinks he's adopted.
Yes.
And his parents have never said he's adopted, but because he just feels so different than his family, he just feels adopted.
Yeah, because they are rich and they do live in a mansion, but he just the way he acts, he doesn't seem like he's one of them. And like I don't know how to explain it. It's just like they're like they don't seem to have like deeper feelings other than surface level.
They are the absolute caricature of the 1980s Beverly Hills white people.
Mm-hmm.
They're rich, and they care only about themselves and their upper crust people and friends. They're influencer friends.
Mm-hmm.
Judges and doctors and stuff like that. And anybody that acts like a common Joe or is a common Joe, they have a hard time interacting with them. It's like they just have to see them as lesser and don't know how to talk to them.
Right. They're yuppies.
Yeah, but Billy isn't like that.
No, he's very adventurous, very normal, we should say.
Yes. Well, he's normal, but he's obviously very paranoid.
Right. And like to further back that up, like every time he tries to just like convey feelings to his parents, they always awkwardly seem to cut him off and not really be interested in anything he's doing. Like only his sister, and they're almost passive to him.
Yeah, it's like we kind of acknowledge you and then we're done. And then we're going to talk about what we want to talk about.
Like there's going to be parties coming up and just very vapid things that he couldn't even pretend to be interested in.
Yeah, that he doesn't care about, but it's all they care about because it's all about high society.
High society.
High society.
His therapist, though, does mention when he tries to calm him down, his therapist mentions a line that's kind of like a running line through the movie where he says, Billy, you'll make an excellent contribution to society.
Yep, a lot of characters will say that to him and to others, but it is a recurring line. But also with the psychoses of Billy, we can't, we do see that his parents are acting yuppish, but we don't see anything truly weird. And we do see that he has visions, like he bites into an apple and sees it's writhing with worms and bugs, but it's not. He like shakes his head and the apple's clean.
Yeah, like he almost is seeing shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's clearly seeing stuff. So it as a viewer, you're like, okay, is this weird stuff he thinks about his family real, or is it all a psychosis? And that's what hooks you, and that's what makes it a mystery.
Yeah, and that's the thrilling part, is that because Billy's so likable, because he's just, again, so generically normal, like in a good way.
And his lovable feathered hair.
Yeah, the 80s, like, mullet type.
It's glorious.
It really is. And some people could pull it off back then. My dad had one. He did not pull it off.
You'll send that picture to me. I'll put it in the video.
Oh, right away. Yeah, because, I just have that, like,
laying around
frame. Yeah. To fit in, one of the things Billy does is he goes to the beach, with all the other rich kids, and they all have their nice cars, and they have their girlfriends, and he's got a girlfriend named Shauna, but he doesn't really like care about her. And
to me, she's just absolutely the generic Beverly Hills blonde-haired teenage airhead.
I would say that she's probably also, and I don't mean any disrespect for this, but she's not the greatest actress
No, she's not. And there's her, and there's a reoccurring minor character of a police officer. He's not a great actor either.
Oh yeah.
But other than those two, I thought the performances were fine.
Yeah. Everyone else is fine, but they ham it up a little too much.
Yeah.
But as kids do, I think he runs into the gorgeous girl on the beach because he's going to grab a ball. I can't remember.
He's no, because those little kids squirted suntan oil on his girlfriend.
That's right.
And he's chasing them, and he falls over, and then she's just there. The pretty lady's just there.
She is pretty.
She is. She's very pretty.
But she squirts more suntan lotion on him, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
And she's like, here you go. And embarrassed, he goes and talks to the other kids, and he's like, hey, guys, is something going on this week? And this again adds to the mystery, which I think is great about this movie. One of the main components is that they all seem to be in on some sort of joke, and they start giggling, and he doesn't get it.
Yeah, all these rich, snobby white kids. And like I said, and there's nothing to clue us in what the joke is either. So we're just as lost as Billy is.
Mm-hmm.
And they're giggling like idiots, and we're like, okay, what? And so is Billy.
And I think even before this, there's this kid Blanchard.
How did he ever date his sister? Billy's sister is beyond me.
I do not know, because Billy's sister's hot. She's super
pretty hot.
Yeah, but he plants this microphone on her earring. She doesn't know this yet, and the movie doesn't reveal it yet. But he leaves her earring on the floor of her room, and when she goes to pick it up, she sees that he's hiding in her closet. And Billy takes him outside and is like, what the hell are you doing? Spying on my sister because she's getting dressed.
Yeah.
And, he kicks him out. And then when she comes down, Billy's sister, she asks, hey, can you zip up my dress? Because she can't get it all the way up. And again, with the sudden psychoses, he sees her flesh like poke outward a little bit.
It's like, he zips it up, and right at the top of the zipper, like between her shoulder blades, it's like pulsating.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wet and pulsating, and then he kind of shakes his head, and it's just a little damp because she just got out the shower anyways. Right. And so, again, that's more of, was he seeing something, or is something really there that, and, we're just, like I said, we are totally, as viewers, in the same boat as Billy is, because they don't let us in on anything. Which I love.
Yeah, for good measure. And, the thing about that, too, is that all the other characters, are like, hey, what's wrong with you, Billy? Like, it's really pointing towards the fact that there might be something wrong with him mentally. Yeah, and somebody, we don't know who yet, is also kind of fucking with him. They're leaving, like, sex dolls in his Jeep, and they're leaving shrunken heads in his locker. Mm-hmm. And again, we don't know who, and we don't know why. And is that driving him insane? Those little bits. It's kind of cool, though. I dig it. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. But when he's on the beach, going back to the beach, all the kids, they're laughing at him. They're like, son, like, whatever. Like, yeah, I'm throwing a party later. And Blanchard comes up and meets him again, and he says he has a tape with him. And he's like, your family is talking about their coming out party. And
yeah,
how
her debutante ball thing.
Yeah, and they start talking about copulation with each other. Yes, which reminded me of the the Misfits song, Two Maggots in the Eye of Love Won't Copulate. Yeah. Yeah, and then it said, well, the dad says, first you copulate, first we eat, then the copulation. First you copulate with someone your age, then with us. And I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, this went from interesting to horrifying real quick. Yes, and the person he just talked to about, like, hey, is there anything going on later? His name is Ted. Of course, and now Ted. He can hear Ted in the tape having sex with his sister.
Yay!
Yep. And then it continues on to where you can hear all of them having sex. His sister, her friends, his parents.
Mm.
And he wants to know what the hell Blanchard's doing with this tape and like making
And
it
so do I.
Yeah. And we kind of learn a little bit. So like this is the first hint that Billy might not be crazy about the
Yeah.
whole incest conspiracy. And we learn a little bit because it cuts over to this guy called the Judge. And he's discovered that Blanchard did in fact put the microphone on Billy's sister's earring. And they think it's suspicious, but they don't really seem to be alarmed by it.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, oh, look at that little shit. And that's kind of it.
Which is very odd. That shouldn't be the reaction they should be giving right then.
Yeah, especially a father should not be giving that kind of reaction.
Yes. So Billy, like, he gives this tape to his therapist because he's like, look, I'm not going crazy. The things I told you earlier, these are true. And I got to say, this is probably the dumbest move on Billy's part because he doesn't make a copy of the tape.
Yeah, he just leaves it with his therapist, and the therapist is like, all right, we'll talk about it tomorrow during your session.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just leaves it with him, and we cut to the therapist's office the next day, and the first thing out of the therapist's mouth is, Billy, I'm very ashamed of you. Do you know what you're doing is illegal?
Yeah.
And it's like, uh-oh.
He plays the tape for him, and it's just them talking and laughing.
In normal stuff, it's like they're still talking about the coming out debutante party or whatever the hell it is. And it's like, first we have dinner, then we make conversation. It's not copulation.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, so then you as a viewer, again, you're like, okay, did what Billy hear on the beach when he was first played the tape, was that Billy's mind? Or was that real? Did the therapist, did he somehow change the tape? Well, how did he change the tape? It's like, how did he get the voices or whatever? And then again, as a viewer, you're just like, okay, now I don't know what to believe.
And now is what was going on with Blanchard then? Like, why did he think he heard something on the tape? It really paints a confusing picture.
Yeah, and by now, because of all this jumping back and forth as between believing Billy or maybe doubting Billy, you've been doing this the whole time as a viewer, and then you're like, whatever, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm on board. I'm here till the end. Let's do it.
As gross as it is, like the whole copulation tape, as we'll call it.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
You're like, what the fuck? So you gotta get an answer for that.
Yeah, you gotta get that in. Now I know that if I ever get to meet Billy Warlock at a convention, I want him to sign my copulation tape. That's what I'll give him.
Exactly. And then just put it in your boombox and walk away and start playing it.
My big 80s boombox that I just carry around.
Full volume. Nice. And you have to get a mullet cut before you go and meet him.
Yeah, and we'll get to this, but in one scene, his love interest, she's wearing what I believe might be the most 80s thing ever. But when you get to that, I'll bring it up. Okay.
So yeah, as Billy had talked to Ted earlier on the beach, all the kids were snickering at him. He does end up going to Ted's party later, and he meets up with the chick that he met on the beach. The only person of color in the whole movie.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah, and she comes off kind of weird in that she clearly is in on the joke that we all don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
But she also seems to genuinely care for Billy, be worried about Billy. But then you're wondering, well, can you trust her? Because obviously she's in on that joke.
There's something inherent about the way she feels for him, like it's like almost a Romeo and Juliet instant love thing where she just instantly like wow, I kind of actually really like you.
Yeah, and she is smoking hot. She is
Mm-hmm.
super super pretty. I mean, obviously considering she was a Playmate of the Month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in '85. I don't ask me how I know that. Um, and now she is, and we're gonna have to. We can't talk about her character without talking about her mom.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. That's
Yeah,
right after the party
yeah,
scene.
yeah. But what we're gonna because I have questions and you better have answers.
Yeah. So before you get to meeting, her name's Clarissa, by the way, Clarissa
Yes,
Carlin. Um,
Clarissa explains it all.
yes, she does. Billy confronts Ted at the party because he wants to know what the hell happened on the tape. And he heard him doing, he even says, he's like, I heard you doing something to my sister or something. Like he doesn't come out fully with
Yeah,
it. And Ted literally tells Billy, he's like, yeah, I fucked her. And then everyone else got so turned on that they all fucked her too.
I mean, just straight out says it.
Yep. He has absolutely no shame whatsoever.
Yeah,
And sadly for Billy, he is surrounded by all the kids at the party who just gently toss him into the pool.
yeah. That was their big bully event, I guess. Was we're just gonna gently toss you.
Almost like they need him later for something.
Yeah, I mean, because he got a good slug in on Ted. He busted his lip open.
Oh yeah, first of many.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that too.
Yeah, but yeah, that's when Clarissa explains it all, takes him to her house, and she um gets naked with him, and they
Yeah,
have sex.
yeah, and you see boobs.
Yep, you get to see full on boobs.
That's pretty great because, like I said, she was a playmate, so you know it's great.
Oh yeah, and the reoccurring thing in this movie, as we've said, is Billy saying things, and while he's having sex with Clarissa, probably the worst time to see something. And the way the camera's shot, it's kind of like over her shoulder, a little bit of ways, like as if you were standing or crouching next to them, and you can see her right arm like around him, but then all of a sudden off screen you see her left arm come over her right arm, and you're
Yeah,
like, what? That's not right. And Billy sees it too, and he freaks out.
yeah, and he's like, and she's like, "What are you? What's wrong? What's going on?" He's like, "You were in a weird position." That's all
Hmm.
he can say. And but she looks fine. She looks normal.
Yeah, well, like when he first falls off the bed, she still looks mangled.
Yeah, it's almost like her hips are, or her bottom half is facing one way, and
Hmm.
her torso is facing the other way.
Right.
But then the camera cuts, and she's fine.
And he's like, wait, he's like shaking it off, like, wait, what did I see?
Yeah.
It does introduce us to her mother who comes home after they're going to do it a second time.
Ah, those were the days when you could do it twice in like an hour.
Yes. uh,
Ah,
being
youth.
young.
Damn it, woman, I'm not a machine.
But yeah, her mom comes home. She's a heavy set lady, not particularly pretty.
Yeah, and she has on way too much makeup.
Hmm.
Like that it's on purpose that she has on too much makeup.
And she can't really speak correctly. And she coughs up a hairball and gives it to Billy.
Yeah, and that's our introduction to the character, and that's it. That is because Clarissa's like, "All right, come on, mom, get out of here," and kind of like walks her off.
And we should say the hairball is a blonde hairball and her hair is brown.
Yeah, and that will actually come up later.
Yes.
But right now, it doesn't make any damn sense.
No. But yeah, no. And Billy going back home, he actually runs into his mom and dad and his sister in the bedroom, and they're acting very sexual.
And it's very horrifying.
Yeah, they're all scantily dressed. It's pretty gross. he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Billy, why are you acting so paranoid?" She's like,
Calls his dad a butthead. Don't you forget
"Yeah."
that. That's important.
He's like, "Don't talk back to your mother like that."
Sorry,
And
you're a butthead.
your butthead. And Billy says, like, what does he say? He says something like, "I'm not acting paranoid," and his mom's like, "It's okay, Billy. Don't worry. You're gonna make a great contribution to society."
Yeah, there it is again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And like we said, it does keep coming up, and they make it a point to that you notice that line.
Yes, but it's spread out enough to where it's not too much.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
No. They don't bash you over the head with it.
We learn apparently through the course of the night and Billy going to a debate against this kid named Petrie, who is your everyday nerd.
Yeah, but he is a rich nerd, so he's preppy and smart, and it's infuriating on both ends.
Yes, and he's got really good hair.
Well, I can just be mad that he has hair in general.
Yes, exactly. Kids, when you turn 34, 35, you're going to experience this great thing called male pattern baldness.
It's gone.
It's gone. It never comes back. But,
I'm sad.
The true horrors of life.
The true horror was male pattern baldness all along.
It was the hair we lost along the way. It was the real adventure.
God.
Yeah. But apparently overnight, Blanchard was killed.
In a car wreck.
And they go to his funeral and they say, "Man, he doesn't look real in his coffin." And they touch him, and sure enough, he does not seem real.
Yeah, but they brush it off as, they had to do a lot of reconstructive work on him because he was badly fucked up in that car crash.
Right. And Petrie tells him to meet him later to talk about something.
Yeah, he's like talking to me. He's like, we have to talk about what's going on in society.
In society, brah. Billy stumbles upon Petrie's body. I would be hard pressed to label this as a kill. If I had to rate it, it'd be 1 out of 5.
Yeah, it's a 1 out of 5. He finds his car in the woods, and he's sitting there, or he's laying there with his throat slit.
Because it's not. I shouldn't say it's not technically a kill, but it's technically not a kill.
Yeah. So he runs through the woods, and he gets to, when you know it, he's right there at Clarissa's house. And through her, they get the cops, and they're going to go check the car. Now, this is where she's wearing what I think is the most 80s thing in this movie. It is a denim jacket, a acid wash denim jacket, but it's like a crop top, right? It doesn't go all the way down. And it is just bedazzled with rhinestones. Just bedazzled with them. And I'm like, yeah, all right, that's the most 80s thing in this movie.
And I think her hair, too, is in one of those, like, sideways ponytails as well.
Yeah, with the scrunchy thingy, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great for someone who loves the 80s, but yeah.
Yeah. And before he even went to go get the police, like, somebody was there that ran off, and he finds a sweater out in the woods. And it, like, if the audience pays attention enough, when Billy goes back to the debates the next day because the police don't believe him, it's a different car, Petrie's body is gone.
Yep.
If you pay attention enough, when he goes back to the debates, he's like, "Petrie's dead. He's not going to debate with me today." And everyone's laughing at him because they think he's crazy. Ted is in the audience, and he's actually waving around the sweater that Billy found in the forest the night before.
Yep. I don't know if I've ever noticed that before I watched it for this episode. Yeah. That never dawned on me because the big reveal is like, he's talking, Petrie's dead. He's not going to show up. And then Petrie fucking shows up.
Yeah.
And he's just there and he's like, I ran into car issues or whatever. And as the audience is laughing at Billy, and he runs off, with his tail between his legs. Petrie kind of rubs his neck where Billy thought Petrie had been slashed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh. Now, again, who did he see? Who's seeing things? Is it real things? Is it some big conspiracy to drive this poor boy crazy? What is going on?
Yeah. I do like that setup, because then you have to start to think like, well, wait, so is Petrie part of what's going on, but his throat was slit, so what's going on?
Right. We saw what Billy saw, but what Billy saw, was that real? Is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the sweater thing is even more confusing, because it's like, okay, Ted is clearly waving it around on purpose, as to say like, yeah, I remember seeing this last night. Now I have it. He tries to convince the student body that there's a secret society that kills people to keep itself secret. That's what he says before Petrie shows up.
And about right now, after that, and he runs away. The only friend that Billy has is his actual friend.
Yeah, what's his name?
Let's see that. Milo.
Milo.
Yeah, because they never get the character last name. He's just Milo, and it never really comes across if he's a rich kid. He probably is, obviously Beverly Hills, but he doesn't act a snob or anything like that.
Yeah, he's almost like Billy in a way.
Yeah, he's kind of a nerdier Billy, and when Billy runs into him at the parking lot, he's like, Billy, I didn't know it was going to drive you this crazy. And Billy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, it was me. I put the dolls, the sex dolls in your car, and I did the thing in your locker and everything. He's like, why did you do that? He's like, dude, I'm your best friend when it suits you.
Mm-hmm.
You basically take advantage of me, push me away, and that kind of stuff. And Billy's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm kind of an asshole. And then what really blows this out of the water is Milo then says, look, last night I was a ways away, and I saw where you were supposed to meet Petrie. And I saw Petrie and Ted run out of the woods, escape out of the woods.
Which is starting to surmount to this bigger question, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, so then it's like, okay, so now if Milo is to be believed, people are just fucking with Billy and setting him up and driving him crazy. But then there's also always that lingering thread, is Milo in on it too, whatever it is.
Right.
And
now he can't trust anyone.
Yeah. So we're like, we don't know what to do. And is this now when Billy heads home?
Yes, and he finds a bunch of figureheads at the mansion.
But the men in white take him away.
Mm-hmm. And they drug him.
Yeah, because his therapist is there, and he's like, I hate to give you drugs, Billy. And she injects him, which I'm sure is highly illegal for a therapist to do that.
Yeah, I don't even think in the 80s you could do that, could you?
No, a therapist can't administer drugs. I don't even think they can even prescribe drugs. That's a psychologist.
Like a Nurse Ratched thing.
Yeah. So they haul him off, and Milo sees this and from a distance. So he goes to the hospital where they drop off Billy, and he goes and he talks to the nurse at this nurse's station. He's like, I'm looking for William Whitney, I think is his last name.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, well, you need to go to the morgue because he came in dead. And you're like, now what?
And he's like, dead, he's alive.
He's like, I just saw him be brought in.
And Billy himself is waking up, and he's imagining that he can hear Blanchard's voice, and he's fighting with people. He's telling them no. And it's on the other side of the screen. He thinks he sees shadows, and he grabs it, and nobody's there.
Yeah, that's, again, more of was it in his head and everything. But in his clothes, he's in a hospital gown. But his street clothes are there, and he gets dressed, and he goes out to the parking lot. And there is his Jeep. Someone has brought his Jeep and parked it here, and there's Milo with his car. And Milo's like, dude, what the fuck is going on? They said you were dead.
Billy, it finally happens to where he thinks he's cracking up. Like he is cracking up.
Yes, absolutely.
In his psychosis, he decides to go and visit Clarissa, who tells him not to go back home because she knows what's going on. And this is like the only part of the movie where it kind of knocks points off for Billy because he slaps her around a little bit.
Yeah, but that was not cool.
Yeah, and it makes him a little unlikable. I mean, granted, he is supposed to be going crazy, but still.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the scene before that, when they were in the hospital parking lot, it knocked off a few points for Milo because he parked in the handicap parking space and he doesn't have a handicap sticker. I'm just saying.
That's just never cool.
No, that's a dick move. He goes back and she's like, don't do it. He's like, and of course he's off the deep end, like you said, he's already gone. He's like, nope, I'm going. Does she? No, she doesn't go with him. Does she? No, because she does end up at the party.
Yes,
but she doesn't go with him. But Milo was there again, kind of tailing him, and Clarissa's mom tries to grab Milo's hair, and he's like, stop, and then he realizes what's going on. He goes, "You're going to be my date to this party." So he's like, but you can't touch the hair, and she understands. Like I said, she doesn't really communicate. She doesn't talk, but she leans back and she's not going to attack his hair. And then we cut to Billy and he drives up to his home and he opens it and it's all. Is this when it's all dark again, like it was at the beginning?
Yes.
Yeah, the house is it's almost out of power because he flips a light switch, nothing happens. And he goes to the kitchen, he chugs some water, he pricks himself on a knife, he pricks his thumb on a knife. I think he's like trying to see if he's dreaming, if this is real. And he sees his mom and dad pull up, he sees their shadows outside, they're coming through the door. And they come through the door, but all of a sudden all the power jumps on in the house, all the lights. And somehow a fuck ton of people were in that room. And Billy didn't see him, and they kind of ambush him. And what do you call that thing they hook around his neck?
It's like a dog catcher's collar.
I know they use it on raptors in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, like if you were going to get a rabid dog with one of those sticks that has the noose on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like even before the lights come back on, you can hear whispering. Like people are like, "Shh! Oh, he's here! Shh!"
Yeah, but again, that happened in the beginning of the film, and nothing happened.
Right.
So you're wondering again, is this in Billy's mind? And then of course, no, it's not in Billy's mind. These people are here. It's all these rich, well-dressed, well-to-do people, and this is where I'm going to leave it all to you to describe in great detail the proceedings of the shunting scene.
Yes, so the shunting.
Do it, Stefan. Go for it.
This is the epic finale of this whole movie. What you've been waiting for.
No.
It's showtime. So the shunting, they get Billy and they all belittle him. They're like, "You were never one of us." Even his mother comes over and she's like, "I'm not your real mother." And they start to just belittle him. They're laughing, and he looks at him and he's like, "Aliens." And they're like, "Oh no, Billy, we're not from outer space. We've been here just as long as you have. We're just not like you. As a matter of fact, it all comes down to good breeding."
Yeah, so what it is, it's a very, very heavy-handed, what is it?
Metaphor.
Allegory, anagram, whatever.
Metaphor, yeah.
Metaphor, there we go. Of the rich people are just better than the average Joe, and they're so different, they're a completely different species.
Yes.
Than the average common person walking the street.
Yes, and it really, really plays up to that fact in this final scene because as we've mentioned before, Tom Savini as a special makeup effect artist, but we have never mentioned Screaming Man
Mad George.
Yes.
Yeah. Screaming Mad George is another hero, legend in the special effects horror business.
100%, and he is a Asian man. He's very eccentric.
Yeah.
And I love everything about him.
Yeah, dude, he is absolutely, as an artist, you strive to have the attitude that he has, in that I'm going to do what I want, and if you don't like it, fuck it, I don't care.
Bring out the KY jelly.
Yeah. He takes pride in what he does. He loves what he does, and he only does what he wants to do.
Yes, and as we were stating in the movie we did before this, The Dead Hate the Living. They did buy KY jelly for the movie they were making about zombies, and in this movie, they do use KY jelly for this next scene, which is absolutely made me 100% unnerved and disgusted to no end. Because what these rich people are, this different species, as it were, they start to get undressed.
So picture a bunch of old naked people.
Yep. Old naked people, old naked topless women, balding, fat, ugly dudes. No offense to the
luckily
actors.
you don't really see any super
genitals.
nudity. Yeah.
Genitals, yeah. But you do see breasts. And what they do is they bring out Blanchard, who is
he's
not
alive.
dead. Yes, he's alive. And he is in his wedding gown, or his hospital gown. And he also has the dog collar on, and they drag him over to the bed. And Ted is there too with Clarissa. They're all dressed up. They're all like fancy and everything. And Ted tells Bill, he says, go ahead and watch, Bill, because you're next. And they take Blanchard over to the sofa. Everyone gets undressed, and they start sucking on him. And as the sucking, and this whole thing is called the shunting, is what the ceremony is.
Yes.
But as they're sucking on him, they start to like pull back. And the flesh around their face is like now like a string of flesh attached to Blanchard's body.
Yeah, they're like absorbing him,
eating him,
intertwining with him. They're shunting him.
They're becoming one almost, taking him.
The camera shows it too, boy. It's just
and
it's just there.
It's the complete metaphor of the wealthy feeding off the poor.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge, who is kind of like the main guy, almost the ringleader who controls the whole society, he comes over and he sees Blanchard's mole on his face, and he says, love. What does he say? He's like, love mark?
Beauty mark.
Beauty mark. And he sucks on it and sucks it right off of his face.
Ugh.
It's so gross. And you see like this female's hands like massaging Blanchard's skin, and then her hands just sink into his skin.
Yeah, and one of them is the hands go into his butt cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Not up his anus, into his butt cheek.
Yes, into the flesh
of the cheek itself. And it's like, and like I said, it's, you see it. There's no, it's, you got to, quick glance. Nope, camera's there looking at it.
Yep. And the judge comes over, and after he sucks the mole off of him, he says, all right, here it comes, or something. And he balls up his fist and he shoves it right up Blanchard's ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes out the other end of his mouth, and he pulls his face inside out into his body, and they start feeding off of what's left of him.
Oh God! And while this is happening, Milo has snuck in with Clarissa's mom.
Yes.
And he has, using her as a weapon, I guess you want to say, he has subdued a cop outside and has taken the cop's uniform so he could sneak in. And of course, Mom Clarissa's mom is let in because she is one of them. But
Right.
again, we don't know, something's different about her, whether, injury or birth defect or something's just different about her.
Which is the hairball she coughed up earlier in the movie. That was because she had fed on something.
Yeah, because later on, I think the judge hacks up a hairball or something.
Yes. So when they're feeding on Blanchard, the whole party kind of just becomes this big mangled, twisted weirdness of flesh around the whole room.
Basically think of what an alien hide looked like in Aliens, but make it human flesh.
Yeah, or The Thing.
Yeah. Imagine
the
Thing room size.
Room size. And to them, this is almost kind of it's not only they're eating and feasting on him, but they're also sexually getting it on.
Yeah, it is an orgy of flesh and feast.
Yes.
And it is something else, man. There's nothing like it I've ever seen.
You'll never see anything like this in any other movie, I guarantee it.
But while they're shunting what's left of that poor kid, Billy somehow gets out of his dog noose thing, and he runs upstairs, and he's going to hide. That's really going to help because his therapist is chasing him. And he hides in a bedroom, and there's his mom laying on the bed, but she has covers on her. But you can see his dad's arms near where mom's legs should be.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets up, and she's walking on dad's arms. She's the torso and head. His arms are where her legs should be and walking, and she doesn't have arms.
And where her vagina is, I believe his sister's head is.
Yeah, his sister's head pops out.
Yep.
And then he freaks out, obviously, falls over near the bed, and his dad's ass is there. And his dad's ass or face comes out his ass. And he goes, "Hey, son, you're right. I'm a butthead." And then he makes a farting noise with his mouth and laughs. And it is the most bizarre thing. And he runs out of the room. The judge is there. I'm not the judge. The therapist is there. Grabs him with the dog collar thing again. It gets him back downstairs. And by the time they get back down, they are done feasting on that poor kid. On what was his name?
Blanchard.
Yeah, they're done, and most of them, except the judge, is now back in humanoid form.
Yeah, and we should mention too that before Billy ran into that room to get away from his therapist's head had turned into the NWO Too Sweet sign.
It did. Too sweet. He's like, "Can I give you a hand, Billy?" And the camera turns, and dude, I didn't even think about that. That is exactly what it is.
Too sweet.
Too sweet. They do that, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah. And, yeah, so now they're down there, and the judge, it no longer looks like Pizza the Hut. He's human. And now he has Blanchard's beauty mark.
Yeah, and
on his face.
He's covered in what looks like KY jelly.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely covered in jelly and everything. And I forget exactly how this happens, but now Billy, instead of just basically lying down and taking this shunting, he's going to fight Ted.
He challenges him, and Ted's like, "Okay, yeah, let's do this. I'm better than you."
Yeah. And, what's great is the therapist goes back upstairs to get Billy's family, quote unquote.
That's right.
Like, come on downstairs. He's like, oh, and Dad shouts, "All right, we're changing." And the therapist says, "Into what?"
That's right.
Which is pretty good.
It is. They're clearly having a ball.
Oh yeah, this is a blast.
Yeah, and they've done this so many times. You can tell that they're just like they're not worried about a goddamn thing.
No.
And Billy, when he fights Ted, Clarissa tries to save him, and he's like, "No, I got this." And Ted beats the shit out of him, and he's like, "Is that all you got?" And Ted's like, no, it's not. And he basically tries to initiate the shunt on Bill.
Yeah, and where does he start trying to suck? Was it on his face?
I think it's in his groin.
I don't remember, but it's nasty
No,
either way.
no, you are right. It's on his face, and then Billy was like, "No, I'm stronger than you," and he slams his fist up Ted's ass.
Yeah, and again goes up to the face.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers come through the mouth and eye sockets and pulls him inside out.
100%.
And it is clear that they are not human because he doesn't have bones. There's no bones in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there doesn't seem to be organs. It's just flesh and worms.
It's like purple and orange and pink worms.
Yeah, and that's it. And like the party is shocked and stunned that this has happened.
Yep.
Like they could easily kill Billy right now, but they're like, holy shit.
They've never seen this happen before.
Yeah, so Billy with Milo, who has a gun, and Clarissa, they escape out the house into his car, and they speed off. And it cuts to them back at the party, and the judge, they're like, oh shit, and then it just cuts to credits.
Yeah, I think earlier Ted was talking with the judge, and he's like, hey, I think we've got a spot for you in the political field or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that's before credits roll, he says something like, I'm going to have to fill that position somewhere or another or something like that. Yeah.
And that's it. Like, obviously, nothing really changed except that Milo and Ted got to escape. The society still exists, whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to continue doing that. They make it hinted at that they're all over the country, if not the world, meaning that those three will be hunted no matter where they go.
Right.
And I'm guessing Clarissa is also one of those things.
Yep.
And she betrayed her people.
Yeah, because I think at some point Ted says, like, hey, why don't you just join in and cool off or something?
Yeah, and obviously now we know that when her and Billy were boinking and he saw the weird shit, that was real. She was doing weird body stuff.
She was, like, shunting.
Or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it is. But that's the movie, and I should mention that when it was released on Blu-ray, it was under Arrow, the company Arrow, which does release a lot of horror movies that people don't know a lot about or, deserve a second chance on release. And they had hired a company, I think it was called Rough Cuts, and they made a 62-page sequel to this that takes place 10 years after the movie. It follows all the characters, Milo, Billy, and Clarissa. And apparently they are being hunted or something by the society, and shenanigans go on. It's called Society Party Animal. And I looked online for it because it's super rare, and I could not find a U.S. copy whatsoever. So I actually switched my Amazon account from Amazon US to Amazon.uk. And Rough Cuts still sells copies of the comic book for $10 UK currency. So I ordered a copy.
So you'll get to see what that is like and if it lives up to what it should.
Yeah, maybe learn more, and then I mean, if it's worth doing, maybe I'll do like a quick 5-10 minute review or something.
Now, I do know that during the production of this, the guy who directed it, he was the producer for Reanimator, and he had obviously he had some knowledge in working with body horror, on set. And originally, what this was going to be was it was just a religious cult kind of thing. There was a secret society. It was the rich, and they were feeding off the poor, but not literally. Right, it was like sacrifices, and there was going to be something to do with the reason that these people were rich and powerful was they were sacrificing people to aliens.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And then when the director, Brian, I think it's pronounced Yuzna, or
Mhm.
Yuzna.
Yeah, I think you're right.
He rewrote it into the shunting.
I'm glad he did that.
Yeah, I mean that's way better. And he said that he took inspiration from obviously like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is you can totally see that, and also a painting sequence by Dali called "The Great Masturbator" by Salvador Dali. So, and this was the movie that introduced him to Screaming Mad George.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's Society, and I will say, for an 80s horror movie, it does live up and far surpass my expectations of what I thought it was gonna be. When it comes to special effects, practical effects, it even surpasses that. Like every shot they took, like I mean, there's like maybe one or two quick ones, but overall, it just looks amazing.
Yeah, and you know, they don't hide it. The camera is there, you know, like I said, you see this room of flesh, this gooey, pulsating, moaning, erotically flesh.
Yep.
And everything about that is terrible.
It is disgusting. And like I said, when the first time I watched this, I was like, I feel sick.
And you know, people always remember the shunting scene, and they should, but the mystery lead up to that is really good because you're constantly flip flopping on whether you believe Billy or you think he's crazy.
And the Society does mention that he is being groomed for them to shunt, and that the kids were just basically having fun with him while like the last week of what was going to be his life.
Yeah, basically. And the story gets overshadowed by the shunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say deservedly so. Not because the story's bad, but because the shunting is complete film insanity.
Yeah, like everything leading up to that, there's nothing even close.
No.
To what that experience like entails.
Yeah, I mean, years ago I showed it to my ex and her brother, and they had never seen it. And when we were watching it, I was playing up the angle. I never mentioned shunting. I never mentioned anything. Never even mentioned like, oh, I can't wait till you see this last scene. I just played up the angle of, is Billy crazy, right? That's all I did. And then when the shunting hit, oh man, they were freaking the fuck out. They're like, why didn't you tell us about this? I'm like, because that would have ruined the movie.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't know about it either. And
yeah,
there are certainly channels out there, like really famous horror channels, that have definitely covered this. And again, I think it's better experience without anyone knowing, which is why we made that disclaimer. Well, Rob did at the beginning. You should go watch this before you listen to the podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is worth experiencing as it was meant to be before, our coverage of it.
Yeah, enjoying that crazy mystery up to that shocking like last 20 minutes.
Yeah, and what a badass like last gory gross ass last couple of minutes, but I still think it's cool that in the writing, because one of my favorite parts about the writing, not just the shunting, is that when he does say aliens, they do specifically say like, oh no, we're not you, we're not human, but we have been here as long as you have. We're just different.
Yeah, they makes it specific. We've been here as long as you have. We're not aliens. We're not human.
And they don't get any deeper whatsoever than that, other than
that's it. That's all we know.
Other than to say that they groomed Billy and that they almost treated him as a pet, because the judge says like they even raised him in their own house. Like,
yeah,
he's just a pet.
They've been doing this since the days of Julius Caesar.
Yes.
So, whatever these things are, they've been doing it for generations and generations.
and in the writing, one of the things that I think horror does the best when it is effective is that it never gives you full answers. Like, why does Michael Myers do what he does? And it's like I
Yeah,
an answer.
yeah,
Like,
it's
how
like
did Jason come back? Did he die? I don't need an answer.
Yeah, I don't need an answer. And that's always, I think, a big draw for me of Carpenter's The Thing. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
Never tell me. Never, never, never tell me.
Yeah. And it's almost also an 80s trope in a way, because it's like the flux capacitor, like there's no real explanation. The Ghostbusters proton packs, they made them. That doesn't even show them making them. They just show up,
Yeah.
Like,
and they're nuclear powered.
Yeah, and it's just like you just don't need the answer. Like, here it is, just accept it. So I just wanted to say I give the story credit for explaining it that very vague way, and I loved that.
Yeah, that was good writing, because it's just told us enough. Hey, they're not aliens, and we know they've been doing this like forever, and we know they're not human, and that's all we know.
Yeah.
Like, were the worms that we saw inside Ted, are those the thing? Are those the host?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? We'll never know, and I don't want to know.
They're like Las Plagas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it's pretty rad. How would you rate the movie, Rob?
With the only issue that I have with it is that, like I said, there's just two minor roles that the actors kind of chew the scenery. But other than that, I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
I am 100% with you. I think it's a near perfect movie.
Yeah.
The flaws are obviously what you said, and then because of the budget, like the budget never shows itself. In fact, like them getting the mansion and everything is actually really great for it. It works, but it like you don't get to know the world of like the rich too much. It's just the mansion, and then you just see them at different places. Like there's no ballroom galas.
There's the mansion and the school, and those are the two main.
Yep.
And then, I mean, like you get the beach a little bit, and you get Ted's party, and but even then, you could say Ted's party is just an exterior shot of the mansion.
Yeah, and it's just like a backyard small pool. So
yeah, and you could say that in the same thing with Clarissa's house could have been shot in the same mansion. I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, 100%. It might have too, and so that I would say that's the only thing that maybe just keeps it from being perfect, is that it's building up the society, these rich people and yuppies, and the way they act, and just high class people doing whatever it is,
awful things.
Yeah, the awful things they do, and you don't get to see too much of that. So I would say that's the only thing keeping it from a perfect movie.
Yeah, it is 9 out of 10, and you can go back and you can watch this every 3 or 4 years, or maybe 2 years, and really just love and enjoy that mystery. Even though you know how it ends, you can still enjoy that mystery. And then you get to the shunt thing, and it's like, oh fuck, this is worse than I remember.
Every time.
Well, that used to be the nastiest thing I saw in a horror movie, or in a movie, I should say, until a Serbian film. I watched that, and I wish I hadn't.
Oh yeah, isn't there also like real kills or something in the Cannibal Corpse movie or something, or Holocaust Zombie or whatever it was called?
Fuck, not Green Hell.
Or they eat real people.
Well, no, there was one where they killed a bunch of animals. Cannibal Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
It was
that's what
believed that people were killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they actually brought the director to trial, and he had to bring the actors and actresses in to show them that they're still alive.
Oh, okay.
But they did totally kill and eat a bunch of animals that were innocent and just there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And there's, Faces of Death, which tried to like say, oh, these are real, but they weren't. I don't know if you remember that line that used to be on VHS.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just like, oh, this is captured on video and everything. No, they were all skits or whatever you want to say.
There was, and this is so just a weird tangent that I just remembered, but long ago in the days of LimeWire, my friend had downloaded a random video off of LimeWire, and we
got 12 viruses.
Yeah, it was just malware included, and we always surmised that it was a like a Red Room video. Because it was just some guy being held down by a boot. The video was like 6 seconds long, and a knife goes into his throat, and like you can tell it's a home shot movie, and it looks like somebody just like stabbed somebody in the neck for real. And we always like thought like that has to be real. There's no way that's not real.
I mean, with things like that now, especially with the internet, you can find videos of people being murdered.
Yeah,
or accidents.
The dark web or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of, for me, even as a horror fan, that's pushing it.
Yep.
I enjoy watching fictional characters get fictionally killed. I don't need to see innocent lives taken or the horrors of war. I'm good.
Yep, 100%. Like I said, this movie is 100% a movie you should watch. We both highly recommend it. And I just want to thank everyone for joining us here today. Rob, do you know what we're doing next week?
We're doing a movie where it is going to be one, again, that I'm going to pick out of left field. And it's going to be, I believe, a surprise either for good or ill.
All right. Well, look forward to that. It's going to be a surprise shocker. And we will see you all next week, and thanks for watching or listening to us talk about Society.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.